this out, a slimmed down version from last week. Without all the other notes, just the 5 additions. All right, so I'd like just to read these. And then comment on the additional information. So these are the 5 OSBA proposed platform additions. Number 1, we support an academics first approach to education. Number 2, we support the right of parents to be the decision maker for their child's well-being and to inspect any instructional materials used as part of the educational curriculum for their student. Number 3, we support protecting children's data collection and personal privacy. Number 4, we support protecting students from exposure to pornographic media, both books and electronic, in our schools. And number 5, we support a drug-free school facility. We do not support the recreational use of marijuana for minors. So we had a spirited debate last week on this when we talked about it. And one of the things that I heard from the board was that OSBA probably already has this stuff in a lot of their platforms. And I hadn't researched OSBA's platforms before I presented this. I more researched our policies to see what we had to kind of show, hey, these are things that fall in line with what we believe in. Over the past couple days, I pulled up OSBA's platforms. And I was really shocked that none of these are actually in the OSBA platforms, including the drug-free workplace, which was really surprising. All they really had was drug rehabilitation, which was kind of disappointing to say the least. So based on that, I wanted to present this slimmed down version of the board, just give one last chance since the due date is the end of this month. And it really worked out well because John, what you would report on your committee report, OSBA twice testified in front of our legislatures on things that their platforms stand for bills that are in front of our legislators. So it just really reinforces why I feel like this is really important for us to present to OSBA and get it on their vote list for the next Capitol Conference. And so that's the additional information I had, and I presented to the board for a vote. Thank you.
So I believe I'm correct, but you've already made the motion, and it's on the agenda, so I don't think you need to have to make another motion to ask for approval. So I think that's done. I'll ask for a second.
I second.
Okay, any discussion?
I'm just actually sharing, and I do apologize, it's actually the 2022 OSBA for the drug policy, and if you actually look at the 2022 OSBA legislative platform, it does not really address the marijuana in that. It does address the epidemic. It says drug addiction is a national, state, and local crisis. The rate and incidence of heroin and other opiate abuse among Ohioans is staggering. Local school districts are called upon to educate students and family about tragic consequences of drug addiction. It is essential that we provide students information, skills, and support to help them abstain from such harmful behaviors as their consequences. OSBA supports legislation that provides new and additional dedicated funds to assist schools in the battle against drug addiction, heroin, and other opiate abuse. Provides sufficient funding to implement trauma-informed training and school program development. There's nothing about recreational marijuana that was on the platform at the vote in Columbus in November, so I just wanted a clarification there. That was something they voted on that's not written in the platform.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Steve.
Sorry.
Any other discussion? I do have a question. is there somewhere where we would see documentation of what an academics first approach to education is? Is that not what we do? Is that what we do? Would our educational be considered I've never seen a definition of academics first approach to education. I don't know, I'm here, you know.
Oh, you want me to speak about it?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Okay. I think we do have an academics first approach. I also think we have an approach that meets students where they are and helps them with what they need. I think that's our role. So I do think that academics and state standards and all of those things are critical to what we do. But we also know that in a teaching and learning environment, and we talked about this in the interviews, so they'll remember, the most important thing we do is connect with kids, engage. Without student engagement, academics can't really happen as effectively as they can if you have motivated students who are engaged with you in what you do. So I think it's a balance. But do I think academics is important here? Absolutely. Do I think the way we get to academics is also important here? Absolutely. There's an art and a science to what we do, and both are important. The most important thing is doing everything we can that's right for children. And so that looks different, feels different for all kids, but academics, yes, they're important. How we get there is just as important.
So basically you would say that's what we do.
I would say.
Would you amplify on this? Would you suggest that should be some amplification in terms of?
Are you asking if I think, and I'm just asking for clarification, because it's a board decision what you do to go on or not go on the OSBA platform, and I respect that. That's why I kind of stay out of the conversation.
Yeah.
But is it my opinion that I would stand up and tell people, yeah, these things are important to us? Yeah, academics are important to us. Everything about educating a child is important to us. So that's, yeah, I'd be there.
I just wanted to
Thank
say,
you.
Jeremiah, I just wanted to say that I do support these things, but I think, I wish you would have come to us more in April. Yes, these are the slimmed down things, but I think when we approach OSBA with them, we have these bullet points, but yet we want to show something besides this on what we believe beneath that, not just the statement, but in support of what we're saying. Again, we do these things here in North Royalton. These are what we stand for, but I can't support putting the proposed platform additions in there without us having a more thorough discussion. I guess that's where I sit.
It does go to their, they have a whole committee and they have
I know.
lawyers and all those. Like, that's why I kept it simple, because like, if you remember last year, we had an award-winning lawyer write one for us, and everybody, the feedback I got was it was gonna take 3 months to review it and approve it, when we had one written like that last year on parents' rights. And so that got voted down because it was too thorough, and it actually had all kinds of references to laws and stuff that a good lawyer did. And so this year I just kept it simple. I just wanted to let's keep it simple. Kiss the principle.
I appreciate
Because
that.
there's nothing legally binding with it anyways, it's just a platform.
Correct.
So I was trying to be accommodating based on feedback from last year and keeping it simple.
It just, it leaves I don't wanna say it leaves a lot to interpretation, but yet it does. We haven't discussed each of these as a board to say what we believe that to mean. John just had to ask Mike about the academics first. We haven't discussed what these mean to us. We follow them, we agree to them, but as far as sending that to OSBA as our proposed platform, they're gonna want, I think, a little more meat from what we believe to consider it. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Thank you for the feedback. The one other thing I'd add is, as I presented last Thursday, we have policies that actually have a lot of verbiage that we've already, well, I didn't approve them because they were done before I was here, but that you three approved. There's policies that do back up for these 5, besides the simple statement of academics first. So we've already, as a board, before my time and Lisa's time, approved policies that support these, so.
Correct.
My only feedback is within our own guidance here, we always had a and we still have a no surprises thing. So I actually wish you for the work session and now for this, that you would have notified us ahead of time that this was coming up, so that we're not just bringing it up and voting on it, so everyone has time to research it and look into it. I don't think it's bad stuff by any means, but just as the process that we've always had, I don't feel it's been followed.
Thank you for the feedback. If you remember last year, I gave everybody like a month and a half, 2 months, when I did it with a lawyer. And again, I was voted down because it was too complicated. This year I sent it a week ahead of time, which is it does not violate the no surprises rule, which is just kind of a way we agreed to practice, but it's not really any kind of state law or anything, or local law. And we did beat this up last meeting for at least a half hour. Nothing's changed since last meeting, except for the fact that I researched OSBA's platforms and was surprised that none of these are in there. And I heard feedback from a lot of community members that were surprised that we didn't pass it last week because they all agreed with it. But thanks for the feedback.
Well, and I think the proof that we agree with it is that it's in policy. The only thing that's not in policy is academics first approach to education, because we have to get defined. And I know Mike, mentioned it, but all these other things are in policy already, so we've already approved them, would be my position. Plus, I'm just trying to go through the logistics of how we create a board resolution after the conclusion of the meeting. You'd almost have to have a special meeting to discuss the final resolution and then approve it. And I don't know if that's feasible between now and the end of May. And I think Heidi's point is a good one. The OSBA request for platform additions came out in January. So it's a shame that here we are at the last possible meeting to do anything, and we don't have a resolution that we can discuss. But it's the same,
I thought you were
it's the same as Heidi and Ann have said. There's nothing here I don't support it. And I supported it when we passed it into policy. I just don't know if taking it forward as a OSBA thing is appropriate or even feasible.
Thanks for the feedback. What's wrong with just sending them these 5 bullet points? Just nice and simple. Why not
Well, I
just-
thought about that. I
mean,
thought
it's
about
just-
that.
I think sometimes in our business, and this is a business, even though it's education, we overcomplicate it and we waste too much money on getting lawyers involved and all these.
Yeah, but we're also a government entity doing the public's work, and we have an obligation to do it correctly.
There's nothing legally binding with this. This is,
I understand all
This is
that,
a
but we
platform.
still have an obligation to do it correctly, even if we're not
who says this is
passing.
incorrect?
It's not a board resolution. It's a statement, it's 5 bullet points.
That's all it ends up being when it goes onto their platform though. If you
We
read their
have to-
platform,
we have-
their platforms are a bunch of bullet points.
I don't want to.
That's what they are. Like I'm saying, if we overcomplicate it and we make things too complicated to get things done for the kids, and, it gets lost in all this minutia of bureaucracy instead of doing what's right for the kids and standing up for what you believe in.
And I would say by passing policies on 4 of your 5 things that we've done
And
in our policy.
I grab it.
we also pay OSBA a lot of money.
I wish I
And
could
they
speak right now.
give testimony in
I'd
front
tear
of
this
Congress about these things that we say we support. And they're probably giving testimony right now for things that we don't necessarily support because we're not getting our things on their platform list. This is getting lost in bureaucracy. I mean, we heard different excuses last year, and now we're hearing different excuses this year. And it kind of is a repeating behavior, like.
Okay,
We got a little newscast there.
all right. Any other discussion?
Okay, give me more background then, if it does pass. It's only a platform that we're suggesting for OSBA.
Right, and it's just like the platform that they have here that says OSBA supports legislation that, drug addiction prevention, that's all it's saying. It's just suggesting, like, we support drug-free school facilities. We do not support recreational use of marijuana for minors. Theirs would say, we support, OSBA supports legislation that would support drug-free school facilities. We do not support recreational use of marijuana for minors. That seems like, I think if you ask people, would agree that seems pretty good, and it's not legally binding. I mean, OSBA doesn't, it's not the have-all of everything, but if it's guidelines and it's best practice, then it should be there and it should be shared. And there's nothing in their thing here that says anything about that. This is their handout, this is their platform, it's not on there. Just like Jeremiah said, it's not on there, and maybe I haven't read through every one specifically, but supporting and protecting children's data and personal privacy, we all should be doing that. I don't think you should have to say it or have a platform for it. It should be a common sense thing to protect the children on that. And academics first, we need to improve academics in general. If we drop to 33 in the whole of the United States, we need to improve, and we can put things in place that will improve. Things that kids, how do they learn? How do we come? That's why I went to this conference, to use things like that, so that educators and that, so we can provide that for kids so that they can get better. So maybe next year we're not 33, we're 30, then we're 22, and we just keep improving. These are things that we can measure. That's everything. I think we should all support that, and like John stated, it's already been passed. It's nothing new. I'm not recreating the wheel. It's just not in their platform to say that we don't, that's something that, and I think if you surveyed, the people in the room may not agree that, I don't think that they would support recreation marijuana for minors. And I just think that saying that reaffirms our commitment to the school, the children, everything else, that we are providing a drug-free school facility, and we do not support this, and the people in OSBA also agree that this is a best practice, that we do not support it.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I will support it this time, but in past best practices for our own board, I would appreciate more lead time to know that any of this is coming up so that we have time to study it, because we've always had a no surprises rule.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah, anything else?
Again, I support all these, but again, this process of putting it down to OSBA, I wish we would have had more time, Jeremiah. I really wish we would have had more time to get into the meat of what our, granted, these would be what goes down to OSBA, but what it means to our board.
already did this.
And I
was on there.
I just can't go along with that this time.
Anything else? Mr. Sidoti, call the roll.
Mr. Sawyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Shuck.
Yes?
Mrs. Dalzell.
Yes,
Ms. Roncover.
No,
And Dr. Kelly.
I also agree with Ann that I don't think it's in a format that is what OSBA is looking for, but I'm gonna let OSBA make their own call, and I'm gonna vote yes.
Thank you.
And your announcements are listed there. Anything else? And I will take a motion to adjourn at 8:22.
So moved.